So one of the things that I've been painfully aware of is just how unusual it is to have a passion for learning. Um, the more that I've been in this sort of education profession, the more that I realize that it is a really rare thing that people desire to learn more, want to sort of peruse things. I mean, there's always this sort of enthusiasm to want to do it, but then when you go through the process of doing it, um, inevitably about a little ways in, right, like 10% in, it just loses its luster because you realize that it's actually difficult to do, that there are challenges, that, it's boring, that there's a lot to actually sort of learn to get good at something. And I've become a lot more aware of this as I get older, is that there's just not a lot of people that want to sort of do something that is rigorous and challenging. Um, for example, the one thing versus these two perspectives. Um, that we talk about within strategy. One of them is sort of a learning perspective, where if you do learn, you sort of gradually get better over time. Another perspective is more based on sort of evolutionary response, where the traits itself, right, like individuals or organizations, are relatively fixed. And this is more of a sort of evolutionary view that we are relatively fixed, but then what matters is the people or firms that actually get through different barriers or sort of stages along the way. And this is more, we might investigate the effects of selection, for example. And as I've sort of stuck within education, I think that's actually more along the point of what's really going on, is that there are these barriers, um, where they're just challenging to get through, right? And then people quit at those barriers, or just don't quite. They think that they're sort of enacted, very strong, rigid barriers, and then people end up stopping with them and sort of losing faith that they can actually do something, or losing the desire to sort of persist at something and go to the different levels, or just get a richer understanding of how the world actually works. And the longer I've been in doing education, the more I realize that's actually the case, is that it is challenging. And most people just are not really going for that challenge. The odd person will, but it's few and far between. And just even thinking about the barrier to get into university, for example, right? There is a barrier to get in there. Not everybody is going to sort of go through all of the paperwork and all of the challenges and all that kind of stuff to even apply to get in. And that is just one sort of selection or one barrier to get into. Um, and if you sort of multiply this across the board to many different ways, it becomes even more apparent across the board. And the result is my view, at least, has changed dramatically over the years, where I'm less. And I'm not saying that I like to learn all the time, although I'm probably weirdly on the side of sort of pursuing the learning, like actually wanting to learn things and going through the effort of doing them. I've always been like that. But, I realize that that is unusual. And we need to sort of build this into the assumptions of human behavior, that is unusual to go through that, right? To sort of to do things. It's like, um, There is an analogy that we often look at in in finance, for example, is that we know that the basics of mathematics, for example, is really easy to do some of the things in terms of saving for a long time. But the problem is, why don't people actually save for a long time to sort of benefit from accumulation and accumulation of wealth and things like that? And the issue is that behaviorally it's hard to do. And it's the same thing with thinking about, do people actually want to learn? I would argue no. I think most people are good to adapting with the local environment, but are uncomfortable with pursuing, learning for the sake of sort of learning in a longer, more rigorous fashion. And I think it's all because of the same biases that we have as human beings, that it's hard to do those things. And so we don't want to consume the resources to actually get there. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.